As you shift your frequency, the pattern of reality you inhabit shifts with you. That's why people speak about a separation, not in a violent apocalyptic sense, but as a divergence of lived experience. One world tightens around fear-based structures, another loosens into possibility and interconnectedness. This separation isn't a final judgment, it's a natural sorting by resonance. People who are anchored in old patterns will continue to live out those patterns. People who have been called to remember are being asked to embody a different set of priorities. The stakes are not punishment, but consequence. What you hold, you become. The more you stabilize in a lighter, more expansive frequency, the more the world around you refracts to match that. The less you do, the more you remain entangled in familiar loops. One of the most striking frameworks that helps explain who shows up to do this work is the idea of 3 broad waves of incarnating souls. These are not hard rules, and human experience is more nuanced than labels can capture. But they are useful archetypes for understanding roles and temperaments. The first wave were the elders, people born roughly in the 1940s and 1950s. They came with a deep memory of things beyond the visible. Their role was initiation, to pioneer and to open a path, often at personal cost. Many of them felt like outsiders, misunderstood, and carried a quiet ache because they had to teach by living examples rather than by being heard. They were path clearing, showing by example that there is another way to be. The second wave, surfacing in the 1960s and 1970s, brought the lightworkers and activists, those who turned the pioneer's blueprint into community practice. They questioned systems, experimented with new modes of relationship and spirituality, and sought to translate the inner shift into outer change. They tended to be idealistic but pragmatic, students of both heart and social structure. The third wave, from the 1980s onward and continuing now, are the naturally intuitive children and young adults who often arrive with less baggage about the old world. They are wired for different technologies of consciousness, ecological thinking, and relational fluidity. Their presence accelerates change because they are less attached to the old narratives. They teach us by simply being themselves. Each wave plays a different part. The elders hold the template, the second wave builds forms, and the third wave inhabits the new reality with less resistance. None of them is superior. They are complementary, like different instruments in the same orchestra. What unites them is purpose, to anchor a new frequency on Earth, a mode of being that becomes available when enough people remember to live from it. If you're wondering whether you fit into any of these patterns, look for signs, not as proof, but as guides. There are recurring experiences reported across many testimonies, including channeled Seth material and Dolores Cannon sessions. These are not diagnostic tools. They are reflections you can look into to see what resonates with your life. One common sign is hearing or sensing a persistent frequency, that hum, ring, or vibration people mention. Many awakened individuals describe a high-pitched tone in their ears at certain times, or a sense of inner music that precedes deeper shifts. Medical professionals may call some aspects of this tinnitus. Spiritual communities often call it a signature of a rising resonance. The responsible stance is to treat it as a reported experience, get medical advice if you're concerned, and also honor the possibility that it's a signal prompting deeper attention to your inner life. Another sign is a shift in time perception. Days can feel compressed or expanded. Some people report moments where time seems to slow around matters of meaning and speed past when engaged in trivialities. The past can feel less deterministic. You might find yourself able to move across timelines, not literally, but in terms of attention, making choices that reweight probable futures. That experience is disorienting at first. It's also liberating once you learn the art of presence. Loss of interest in material accumulation is a third classic indicator. Where once status, possessions, or career advancement drove you, there's now an emptiness that those things don't fill. That's not always comfortable, Society rewards accumulation, but the call here is towards simplicity and values-based choices. It doesn't require you to become a monk. It asks you to realign priorities so your life reflects inner wealth rather than external proof. Loneliness and isolation show up too, and they're painful. When you operate on a different frequency from those around you, you can feel strangely separated even in familiar company. That feeling can lead to withdrawal, but it can also be a crucible, learning to be comfortable in your own presence, to cultivate an inner community with your higher self and soul allies, and to seek out resonant relationships rather than cling to familiar but draining ones. Heightened synchronicity is another hallmark. Suddenly, meaningful coincidences multiply. Songs with information you need, meetings that feel divinely timed, a sudden clarity about a person or path. These are not magic tricks. They are the language of a responsive universe. When your attention aligns with what you truly intend, the world begins to answer in matching motifs. An attraction to ancient wisdom and not-so-modern perspectives frequently surfaces. You might find yourself drawn to indigenous teachings, esoteric practices, or the lived technologies of ancient civilizations. That's not a rejection of modernity, so much as a recognition that many older systems encoded ways of living in harmony with non-ordinary realities. That hunger is a resource for remembering and reweaving your life. Finally, heightened discernment and a tendency to question mainstream narratives is common. This is not paranoia, it's a calibrated intelligence that refuses to accept inherited assumptions without inspection. It can manifest as skepticism toward received opinions, institutions, or simplified explanations. The balanced expression of this discernment is curiosity rather than cynicism, investigation rather than blanket dismissal. Each sign comes with both challenge and instruction. The ringing invites attention to inner tuning. Distorted time asks for practices that anchor presence. Loss of interest in materialism asks you to reconfigure how you measure success. Loneliness asks you to form deeper soul alliances. Synchronicities ask you to learn the language of pattern. Attraction to ancient wisdom invites integration, and discernment asks for compassionate clarity. Understanding who you are in this movement is not about labels so much as clarity of role. The elders, the light workers, and the third-wave children all experience the signs differently, but all are called to the same task, anchoring a frequency. When enough people stabilize that frequency, collective reality shifts. Imagine a single candle in a dark room, slowly being joined by others until the room changes in tone and temperature. That's the mechanism in metaphor. The field responds to coherent attention. But what does anchoring the light actually mean day to day? It's not about dramatic acts. It's about consistent inner work that produces visible ripples. Anchoring is holding a steady state of being that others can resonate with. It is embodying non-judgment, compassion, clarity, and truth. It is choosing presence over reactivity. It is showing up as a living template of an alternative reality. This is where practical instruction becomes crucial. The research recorded in regression work and the practical orientation one reads in Seth materials converge on a set of protocols, habits that recalibrate attention and stabilize frequency. Below are 5 core steps you can make part of your daily life. They are simple, repeatable, and effective when practiced consistently. Think of them as calibration, not as magic spells. Step 1. Connect to your higher self each morning for 5 minutes. Before opening your phone, sit, inhale slowly, and set the intention, I am open to guidance that serves the highest good. Imagine a line of light running from the center of your chest upward, connecting you to a wiser, quieter perspective. Ask one specific question for the day. What is the highest use of my attention today? Wait for a feeling, an image, or a short phrase. Record it if you can. This simple morning lighthouse Orient your attention to the new frequency rather than to distraction. Step 2. Ask succinct guidance during the day. When you face small choices, ask the same question you trained in the morning, but shorter. What serves? What aligns? Make your requests concise. The universe, however you conceive it, responds best when you are clear. Notice how small decisions accumulate into the pattern of your day. Step 3. Practice non-judgment. This is not about permissiveness. It's about releasing energy that fuels reactivity. When you notice judgment toward yourself, others, or circumstances, pause. Ask, what belief is under this judgment? Are you acting from fear or from presence? Replace the reflex with curiosity. This practice preserves your frequency and prevents you from being dragged into old stories. Step 4. Speak truthfully and kindly. Truth here means alignment with your felt reality. Kindness means you deliver truth without annihilating the other. When you speak from a grounded center, you both hold your frequency and model a different way of relating. It's simple. Speak less to be right and more to be real. Step 5. Trust the process. This is the hardest for many because it requires surrendering control. Trust is not passive. It's a steady relaxation into competence. Trust that your tiny, consistent actions matter, that your alignment shifts probabilities, that the net effect of small, coherent choices is large. Now, embedded inside these 5 steps is a specific, short practice you can do in 5 minutes, a micro-meditation for grounding and alignment that many people find effective. It's practical, easy to remember, and can be used anywhere. Sit comfortably, feet on the ground if possible, close your eyes. Breathe naturally and notice the sensation of air moving in and out. Imagine a golden thread extending from the center of your chest down into the earth, not as a tug, but as an anchor. With each inhale, feel the thread brighten. With each exhale, feel your body soften. After 6 breaths, bring your attention to the top of your head and imagine a silver line connecting you to a vast sky, your higher self, source energy, whatever language resonates. Now imagine both lines, the gold to the earth and the silver to the sky, aligning through your heart, forming an axis. Rest for 3 breaths in that axis. Ask one clear question: how can I hold my frequency today? Receive whatever image or phrase arises, even if it's just a feeling. Commit to one tiny action based on it. Open your eyes and step into the day. That 5-minute practice can be repeated anytime you feel unsteady. There are practical tactics too. Set boundaries on social media. Curate your inputs. Create a small rituals bag, a few drops of a scent, a stone, a journal that signals your nervous system to shift. Spend time in nature to recalibrate bodily rhythms. If you are socially isolated, seek out communities that resonate, online or in person, but prioritize depth over numbers. A small, steady group of aligned people is more stabilizing than broad, surface-level approval. At some point in this journey, you will come up against a choice. Not a single dramatic event, but an ongoing bifurcation. You cannot unknow what you have known. You cannot fully return to a life solely driven by fear when you have tasted a coherence beyond it. That's the hard message that sits under the hope. Memory implies accountability. Freedom is not a license to dissociate. It is an invitation to responsibility. The more you awaken, the more your life becomes a vessel for others to remember. This is empowerment, but it's also sober work. The world will not instantly match your ideals. There will be setbacks, mismatches, painful reckonings. Grounding does not eliminate friction. It changes your relationship to it. Instead of being swept by reaction, you deliberate. Instead of being depleted, you steward your attention. The cumulative effect of many people doing small, consistent acts of alignment is a real shift in potential outcomes. If you are feeling the urgency, let it be a clarifying flame rather than a panic. Urgency helps you cut through hesitation. Use it to establish habits, to speak an important truth, to set a boundary, to show kindness where it matters. Remember that this movement toward a new earth is not just about visible transformation. It's about becoming a frequency that others can tune into. You might wonder, what about those who resist? The metaphor most channeled materials and experiential reports use is helpful here. Think of two plates of glass moving apart slowly. What matters is not coercion, but resonance. Your role is not to defeat others, but to be a stable alternative. When a critical mass stabilizes, the field reorganizes. That is why personal practice matters so much. It is the building block of the wider change. As you move forward, keep two companion attitudes: compassion and clarity. Compassion reminds you that everyone is on their own timetable. Clarity reminds you to hold your frequency without collusion. These two qualities together are the alchemy that converts private remembrance into collective transformation. Before we close, remember a few ground rules. If you experience distressing physical symptoms, consult a medical professional. Spiritual frameworks are not substitutes for healthcare. If channeled material helps you, use it as guidance and corroboration, not as unassailable proof. If you encounter teachings that promise guarantees or eternal certainties, hold them lightly. The work of awakening is practical, embodied, and often slow. You are not alone. There are many who feel the same tuning, walking similar paths. Elders who carried the torch, light workers who cultivate communities, and the newer souls who bring fresh perspective. Your presence matters because frequency is contagious. Your small choices ripple outward. If this message landed inside you, take one small public step. In the comments, write, "I remember who I am." Let that be your seed of commitment. It costs nothing, but anchors you in community and begins the energetic loop of remembrance. In the days ahead, tend your 5-minute practice. Ask one clear question each morning. Practice non-judgment. Speak your truth with kindness and trust the process. These are not dramatic prescriptions. They are steady tools to keep you sane, effective, and loving while the world rearranges. Jane Roberts Seth, through the material many read, suggested that shifts like this are a function of attention and probability. Dolores Cannon's sessions show us how that looks up close. Ordinary people experiencing extraordinary recalibration. Together, they offer a map and a set of field reports. Use both. Translate the metaphors into daily habits. Anchor your frequency. Be gentle with yourself. Be clear about your boundaries. Let your life be a quiet demonstration of another possible world. There is indeed no turning back once you remember in earnest, and that is good news. Remembering frees you from patterns that never served you and invites you into a work of love and responsibility that is breathtaking in its scale and simplicity. You are part of a movement that is less about dramatic endings and more about a gradual reweaving of reality itself. That reweaving begins inside ordinary days. If you want the next deep dive where we unpack the complete blueprint for navigating this shift, practical tools, recommended resources from channeled and regression traditions, and interviews with people in each of the 3 waves, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. We'll go into the specifics of long-term practices and community-building strategies that help stabilize this new frequency in ordinary life. Walk gently, stay steady, and remember, you were never abandoned to this process. You volunteered for it. You are supported. You are needed. Wherever you are on the dial, may your attention be your compass, and may your life be a steady lamp for the ones still finding their way home.